have to remind. Number one, you are supposed to attend classes in the university. Let's get back to normal, right? Follow SOP strictly so that we are doing our job effectively. Next one, any question in the last class? Have you done homework? I saw few of you have done, very few lah, and I corrected one or two. I don't go through every paper. It's good you finish before the deadline, right? Although the deadline is far away, those questions takes only half an hour, just 30 minutes only. You can conveniently solve it. I will just mark then and there and give you comments so that you can follow up, right? It is important. At least for a few weeks, we have to strictly follow until you get familiarized with the calculations, units, the type of problems, right? Okay. What else? Assignments are clear to you, right? Any question in the last class? If not, we move to next topic today. No, I think Kamhausian today from uh, from Dean, we are asked to conduct hybrid classes. This is what the email I received. Let me check. Other lecturer means which lecturer? I will check with them. It is the email, right? I based on the email. I didn't go to office this morning. I was in library and then come to class here. In email, I read we are not classified under MIIT. Following SOP and others, we are supposed to conduct hybrid classes. That means dual mode. I'm sure it is dual mode. Anyway, I will check. If you mention the lecturer later or in my personal email, I will check with he or she and then finalize and give you. But this is what email I received and I was sharing with you just now. The afternoon I read. Okay. Around 2 o'clock, I think I read. Then I'm coming here for class. If anybody coming also fine today. If you are nearby, you can attend. Clarify your questions. Now, any question in the last class? I give the same topic because the topic's up to get familiarized with the terms. I just keep repeating the title. But each one is a different topic. Number one, we started with introduction. Second, with some little bit introduction, right? Made very basic introduction about what is force, what is stress, and how they are classified, right? The units and so on. Now, the very first chapter on this is about understanding stress. We understood. I find it difficult. Let me keep it like this. Whenever we mathematically estimated that the factors affecting stress distribution in a body is what? Is or force and the area, correct? Force and the area. The stress is distributed over an area, right? Over an area. So it should be perpendicular, which is cross section. If you talk about the axial load, it will be axial load over cross sectional area, right? So we saw how the area is contributing to the stress distribution. When the area is less, stress distribution will be how? How is the stress distribution? Less or more? Area is less, as the area is less or getting reduced, intense of stress will be. No answer. You please unmute and tell me. I repeat, last class we done two cases, case 1 and case 2, where with the original area O by 4, and when the area is reduced to 1 by 1 due to an axial tensile pulling at the ends, isn't it? Tensile pulling at the ends. Because of that, the cross section in the middle got changed. How much is the stress value? Stress value increase or decrease? Is it $1 million question? Jasan? Any answer can be? Then I correct? See, it seems everything clear to you, but when you start answering, solving problem, you'll have a number of questions. Come on, Jason. Anyone? Khalif, Wang Wei, Muhammad, Anas. Yeah, how do I address Muhammad Anas or Abdul Wahab? Which name? Too many names.
You can call me Anas.
Anas.
Yes.
Why you put in bracket? Oh, calling name, huh? Okay. Come on, answer me. I got you. Answer me.
You got me, huh?
If the stress, if the area is reduced, stress will be more or less. Check the slide.
After it's finished broken, like when broke.
No, the profile I'm asking, the distribution. Whenever see the last time we solved one equation, did you attend last class?
Yeah, I think.
There was a beam subjected to a tensile load at the end, right? Originally the cross section was 4x4. We solved for area 0.31, I think, Pascal
then
something.
Increased to 1.
Yeah, reduced to 1 by 1, and then stress value increase or decrease?
Should be maybe increase.
Very good. Not maybe, confirm increase, right?
Yeah.
You imagine, but there are interesting stories. I am sorry if I go into that. It may be debating on the topic. But let me tell, because you are still having doubt, I have to tell this. You imagine that you go to car, you take your car, go to car service, right? Car service. When you go to car service, how much is the weight of the car?
How much the weight?
Weight of the car.
Let's say 500 kilogram.
500?
kg? 500. You are imagining, right?
Yeah, roughly. So much tons, right? So much tons can be lifted by just by pulling 4 wheels only, right? It is pushed by hydraulic jack just by 4 wheels, right? The load is applied to 4 wheels only. Am I right?
Yeah.
What is the area of the 4 wheels? Very small, right? Because the distribution of the force applied to these 4 wheels are very heavy, it can lift even a car, right?
Yeah.
It can lift even a car. On the other hand, if you spread the area so much, maybe next time I bring the example. When the area is increasing, the distribution of the same stress will be distributed evenly and it will be very less. On the other hand, if the area is less, the same stress have to be occupied only within that smaller area, resulting in very intense, or the density of the stress or force over area will be very heavy, isn't it?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Hope you are clear. We also did it by mathematically last week. Just click on that particular slide only. You have to have imagination, good imagination power. Otherwise, you cannot solve. Now, see, original area was 1 by 1. I mean here, 4 by 4. With 4 by 4, you got 0.31. On the other hand, is my voice low? Very low. Why is this very low? Okay, now it's clear. Originally, the area of cross section was 4 by 4, got 0.31. Because you have so much, I can compare here. This is the cross section, right? So much area, the applied stress can be, the applied load, this applied load and the resultant stress can get distributed over a big area of cross section. On the other hand, when the radius or the cross section is changing, right? The cross section is reduced to 1 by 1. Right, the same stress have to be distributed within this smaller area, hence it will be very intense. That's why you are getting a value of 5 Newton over meter square. You can also explain another way. Stress is indirectly proportional to area. See, P over area, isn't it? P over A. A is at the denominator. Sigma. If I take it to be sigma P over A. Hence, when the area is decreasing, stress will be more. The area is less, increasing, stress will be less. The same principle is applied in many applications in hydraulic press, in operating the cranes, hydraulic jack, many different operations, and the applications are based on this principle. Okay, and then we learn this one and also solve this question. Any doubt in this question? Do you understand how we solve this one? We have taken part by part, A, B, and B, C, C, D. We found out the distribution, right? How the stress values are distributed one by one. And then we calculated which is the maximum, right? Which 30 was the maximum. Hence, the maximum stress will be given by this loading. Stress load by area of cross section at that point provided you the maximum stress borne by this material.
Yeah, actually, I have a question here. Actually,
Yes.
for the 4 Newton, where we did calculate it, or we just ignore it?
For
You see the C? Yeah,
yeah,
C.
from here.
It's 4 Newton, right?
Yeah, 4 kilonewton.
Yeah. So where we did calculate, like when you did the cross section, like I can't get it. Where it goes, like.
Okay, until this is clear, right? Until this point
Yeah.
is clear, right? Wait, I take my tutorial, I explain clearly there. Tutorial week 1. I think it's all this one. Okay, I did part by part. I also posted this tutorial for you. You understood until this point, right? How we calculated 30,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Got 30 in this direction. Remember the point in this direction.
Yeah.
When
Yeah,
you
it's
go to the
clear.
next point, I put all the blue color as the stress produced or generated by the material due to its property. And the red color ones are the loads given, external loads given to you in the question. Is this clear? I have
Yeah.
posted
Yes.
one. I have posted this one in your tutorial section. I repeat, the red color ones are showing the loads acting, and the blue are the stress produced by the body. In the beginning, you understood. Action,
Yeah.
reaction.
Yes.
Action, reaction. When you sum up, your reaction should be 30. Fine. When you go to BC, CD, CD, at this point, suddenly due to other direction 4, it must get reduced to 26. No longer 30. Got this point? After
It reduced. Okay.
the point after C, the point after C, go to the member. The point after C, or right of the C, because of this direction 4, the 30 get reduced. 30 minus 4. Okay,
Mhm.
change to 26. Because opposite direction I deduct.
Yeah.
Okay,
And now I understand. Thank you.
I clear
Yeah.
here. It's
Doctor,
again.
where did you post the tutorial? I can't find it actually.
There is there in CN.
I keep checking. I can't find it.
Well, I don't know whether I posted or not, but I remember I did it. Okay, let me finish this explanation. Right.
Okay. Okay.
So
Thank
the
you.
4 is acting this direction, so it has to respond in another direction for 4, right? So automatically it will change to deduct 26. I mean 4 deduct, then 26, and then come back, followed by nothing is there, no other forces acting on this according to this one, right? So
Yeah.
then it will balance out, right? All this 26 is equal to 22 in this direction, 2 in is moved like this. Line.
Now.
Okay, so you have to
Thank you.
balance out. The member should be balanced. That is the main idea. It's a straight line. Later I change it,
Okay.
but I think I posted. Let me check. Mm. If not, I will post it by today.
Okay, miss. Thank you.
Oh, I didn't do it. I will do it together on the class for today. Where we are here. Right. Hope you are clear. And the corresponding the drawing also, you please follow accordingly. Follow the logic. Understand. Here, you must have CL what cognitive 1, 2, 3 until 4. Right. Your cognitive is 4 analysis, but you have to have all the cognitives from 1 to 3 or 4. Then only you can solve. You have to have knowledge or understanding, remember or able to comprehend, and then apply the equations, equilibrium equation, or whatever the material property compatibility equation to solve, Finally, analyze. Analyze means, yeah, I saw the homeworks. You please do analyze means nobody will ask you, hey, do plot, do sketch, mark, all these things. Nobody will ask. Analyze. Whenever the question coming out, analyze. Please do all the sketches. Otherwise, it is like copy paste. That too, it is even worse. You are online. I don't know how much you learn, what you learn. Please do all the drawings, all the sketches in the calculation, whatever related to. Although you are a genius one, you don't need any solving equation. You can get the answer. You need the drawing. Otherwise, you lose mark because I have to provide marks for each and every step. Then finally, you get 20, 25, right? If the drawing is not there, you cannot get mark. Although you have the answer there. So please put the all the helping sketch. You practice that way. When we have the drawing, freehand drawing. I mean free body diagram, not to scale. It's very easy. Free body diagram and the corresponding bending movement and shape force. All these things should be aligned well, so that you are getting all the marks. You are not losing anyone, right? So you when you okay, when you solve, you go one by one, then you are able to end up with 22. So the system is balanced. You must with that you understood this portion is a critical section, must be designed very thicker with a good material and so on, right? With that the system is successful, right? Next one here. Today we're going to solve for types of stresses. Types of stresses. Last class we understood the what is stress and what are the equations governing, right? Simple equation. I repeat, stress is equal to, stress is denoted by sigma equal to force over area, load over area, P over area, area of cross section. Area of cross section. Later we'll see about surface. Now area of cross section for now. Remember this point only. We move one by one, and then if it is tensile force by area, then it is called tensile stress. If it is shear, accordingly. And then what else? Compressive. Today you are going to learn all about these different types of stresses produced by different types of forces. Come on, you see here this type of wheel in theme park. You can see these types of wheels. You may be given this beam to analyze, right? This beam is supported here and then it is rotating. This end is rotating. This is anchor here, but it is rotating with so much connections. See here, there's a plate, there is a bracket, and there may be some nuts and bolts to join with this, and it is in rotation. How? By properly designing its screws, right? And then the size of the bracket, the beam, the size of the beam, size of the angle, right? Angle, the support condition, all these things are matter. In all, above all, the material. You must choose the best material, the good material, and you should know the stress borne by this material, or what is the ultimate stress up to which it can be designed. It depends on the type of material. If it is brittle material, there are two types, ductile and brittle. Ductile you can design up to it reaches the plastic limit, which is yield, and then the brittle, it is reaching at ultimate stress. So you may have to design according to the material property, knowing the material property values. The values are there in the code books. You can take from the code books. If asked in the exam, we will provide you the table with the properties of the material. Don't worry, but you should have the basic knowledge. Today we'll see all these things about stresses. So I repeat, last class we did different types of failures from Prof. Bhargavi's class, and also some of. Did you go through the video I mentioned? Big blue crane failure. Do some work whenever the assignment is given. Just do it. Right? All important for you. Big blue crane failure. I have given you the link. Ask you to go through. I don't want to spend time in the class because something similar to what we are discussing in the class. Next class, please go through and check for me all the technical details. How much tonnage of the crane, how many people fatter, how many accidents, how many people lost life, and then what is the all information related, technical information related to that you must bring. I will ask. Next. Type of stresses. Today we just touch upon type of stresses, but didn't go in detail. Material behavior, brittle or ductile. This thing we will discuss more in later chapters, like the relationship between stress and strain. When you come out with the stress strain curves, you will know more about this behavior with plots, easy to understand. Lastly, nature of the external loads. Yes, very, very important. Today you have to remember this point. Nature of external load, right? According to nature of external load, the type of stresses will be varying. Let's see what are they. Resultant, all the last class summary, resultant force. Yeah. Have you solved the third question? Have you started solving? Okay, last question. I really wanted to ask about this homework. Can you solve or not? If not, I will do one or two in this class today so that you can finish, or you do it yourself. All from statics and dynamics classes. Hmm?
Not yet.
No, no. Do you want me to solve one question today? Maybe end of the class I solve one. Is that okay? Or you can do manage yourself.
We do.
Answer. I don't know who is answering. Don't worry. Anybody can answer because I'm in the screen. I don't want to toggle between screens. Maybe laggy. But I need a voice. Okay. After a few weeks.
Yes, miss, please. Just one question. It's okay.
Okay. Good. So in that, the third question is saying about, I mean, whenever it is inclined, the load is straight means okay, we can solve. If it is inclined, automatically it will have components. You have to solve by components, resolve by components. You cannot track through the inclined line. That is why engineers, thanks to Pythagoras, we have, like you gentlemen, Pythagoras, one day he was sitting in the class, he found this theorem. We are now successful in many applications, right? We are successfully using it. So when it is inclined, we cannot track through. That's why we resolve that magnitude into horizontal and vertical, and then sum it. We'll get the final answer. What is acting along this inclined line? That is why we need a resultant force, right? In that case, in that homework question. Similarly, another resultant force, which is it's possible to resolve force. Oh, same thing I explained here, right? For a given geometry, the same thing I explained already. Whenever it's inclined, you need to solve by x vectors and the y vectors, following the Pythagoras theorem. For a given geometry, only a certain set of components and angles characterize a given resultant force. Yeah. Why? Sometimes it is we solve for 1D, we solve for 2D, we solve for 3D. In this class, mostly we do 1D. 2D will come when it is the chapter more circle, chapter 4, I think chapter 6, more circle for plane surface analysis. Plane means automatically X and Y, right? The plane which is lying on the ground, lying on the plane. So you must solve by 2D, X and Y. 3D analysis, you do it in stress. I think the next chapter will be on, next paper will be on theory of structure, wherein you do whole frame itself using software and also by manual. Right. Equilibrium of a particle, when the resultant of all forces acting on a particle is zero, the particle is in equilibrium, right? Yeah. All are nullified or vanished at a point which is the geometric center. Yeah. When the geometry is okay, right? The load is also balanced. Both will be lying on the same point. So it is at equilibrium condition. If there is any difference, then you have to design accordingly. This all we discussed last class. Newton's law, first law, which says resultant force on a particle is zero. The particle will remain at rest or will continue at constant speed in a straight line. Yeah, there shouldn't be any difference in energy, difference in force, difference in mass, difference in stress in a member. Even if it is difference, it should be balanced by next loading or next component, next member, right? Overall, the system is kept. By that, overall, the system is kept at equilibrium condition, right? Concept of stress. Today's class, the types of stress, we'll go through all these things. Concept of stress once again, and then type of. It's very interesting. If you understand this, it's such an easy paper, easier than the mathematics paper for your information. But you have to imagine and understand. Spend some time every day, half an hour at least 1 hour in a week, enough. Concept of stress, type of forces, centric and eccentric. Okay, here in this module I do only centric, eccentric. I teach you the theory, but eccentric is not needed. Let's understand only centric loading. Eccentric loading, you can do it in a higher level, not at this point. Let's start off peripherally. You have to go horizontally. Must know all types of stresses, all types of analysis, and then we can go deeper. Axial load, normal stress. Axial load, there are different types. I will explain one by one. Today we will go through normal stress. Hopefully I finish normal stress, two types. The next class we do the shearing stress. If I can finish shear stress, this one I will go for this. So there are two types: normal stress and shear stress. Shearing stress examples: bearing stress. The stress produced at the bearing, exclusively at the bearings, which is to be analyzed in a separate, it as a typical structure. That's why it is also called as bearing stress. We'll say how it is being analyzed. Concept of stress. The main objective of the study of the mechanics of material is to provide the future engineer with means of analyzing and designing various machines and load-bearing structures. So main concept is that you cannot finish with the force, you must go for one more step, which is stress analysis. So far you just understand the overall picture of whenever there's a load, it is going to bend or deflect or deform, right? But internally there are some stress. You should go internally due to the material property, how the load is distributed, whether it's a tensor or compressive or in reaction to bend, in reaction to just deflect or shear or reduce the section, increase the cross section or increase the length. All these things have to be analyzed for a complete design. You cannot just design for a load, and if you go to site now, next time when you go for co-op, the engineer at site just calculate the load and find out the moment. He say, okay, go for this 2x2 member, 2x2 beam, 3x3 column, 4x4 slab, something like that he will advise. But these are all for just moment only, right? But the system which is in running, right, this is for a static member, okay, right? But for dynamic member which is in motion, continuously operated, continuously acted upon by another element, right? There may be two elements which is rotating together, and then there may be on and off, right? Switch off, on. The machine is running for 8 hours in a day, then off again on the morning. So on and off, the load machine is subjected to loading, the structure is subjected to loading and unloading quite often and prolonged time. All these things may cause a problem of other types of problems which are due to stress distribution, stress concentration. By understanding this stress concentration, you are able to design the member for all these variations, in addition to the reaction and the moment due to loading. Okay, it is one more step, advanced step from your learning. Both the analysis and design for a given structure involve determination of stresses and the deformation, right? Yeah, you have to know how much is the deformation, how much is the deflection. It may be deformation, may be just a deviation or a deflection or a displacement, right? Or breaking, right? All these types have to be learned, and the corresponding stresses. The chapter is devoted to the concept of stress. Now we'll look into concept of stress. To understand the concept, you should know the types. Start with type of load. We call this as type of loads or forces acting on the structure, right? This is making the difference in the member, right? This is going to cause a different stress distribution in the member. That's why you should know what are the types of loads coming in. If I miss anything, please guide me. Maybe you come across in your previous studies or other subjects, or some magazine, some newspaper, a new type of loading coming in. Yeah, it is there. I wanted to discuss this matter. There's a new type. I forgot it. Suddenly I'm not getting it. Right, let me finish this. I will get it. Forces induced by gravity. Number one is gravity, means self-weight of the body. Self-weight, weightless, no gravity acting on it, right? It will be floating or just flying off, right? Weight, any body has some weight, right? Because of that, and no, any body has some weight and it is acted upon by the gravity. Because of the gravity, it has some force, right? It has some force acted upon by. It may be dead load or live load, right? Actually, it should be separate. Live load should be separate. I don't know why it is like this. Induced by gravity. Okay, live load also, they are also acted upon by gravity. That's why they put under this category. Dead loads and live loads. Permanent, transient. Self weight, moving weight. Right? All these things you can understand. This may be any type of occupants, tables, chairs, almirah, right? In a house, or if it is a workshop, all the machines, motors, cooling plant, whatever the things that is constructed on the, supported by beams and columns and slabs. Force induced by wind, right? Force is induced by earthquake. Force is induced by rain or snow. Fluid pressure, others, right? So among these, we will stop here. No, we stop here only. This one, these things you will include in this one. You will study in geotechnical. This one is included in your RCC analysis. Analysis for wind load. What is the type 1, type 2, type 3? What type you are learning? All these things are based on code book. Don't worry. Code books are there to guide you to choose the type of load and so on. Hey, you already know building bylaws, right? Yeah. I think you already know that about the handbook. Building bylaws, that handbook also having different types of loading. You can choose the type of load with respect to the type of building you're going to analyze and design, right? And then earthquake load, right? Earthquake load due to imbalance, and the earth will start moving because of more pressure or imbalance in pressure. Earth will start moving. That is called earthquake load. Force induced by rain or snow, right, is also having some weight. Snow is having some weight. Rain, as it grows in what quantity, have some weight imported or exerting on the buildings or the structure people. Fluid pressure is also pressure due to the fluid. When the structure is in fluids, it may be a marine, right, submarine, it may be a treatment plant, right, maybe a treatment plant which is always working with waters. And then what turbines, which is always located for working with water, and many other structures, right? The gates, right? Gates operated in the harbor. What else? Any other? And then if you talk about fluid, if you say fluid, you can take aeroplane. Aeroplane always in air, air pressure. It has to overcome the air pressure to get lifted up or alighted, right? So these pressures are all dealt in fluid mechanics or hydraulic papers, right? But we do only the solids, the solid structures. Centric loading. Understand what is centric loading. With that, we can explain what is axial loading. Okay, a uniform distribution of stress in a section infers that the line of action for the resultant of the internal forces passes through the centroid of the section. See here, it's like this, and there is a member. It may be like this. It may be, you can imagine, to be vertical or horizontal in both direction. When the load is acting, right, it is towards the member. It is not away from the member like the one we discussed before. It is towards the member, right? And then what is the response of the member? The member will respond in opposite direction with equal value. See, P dash is very less. Is like this. There's some text and right. Okay, now. Okay, leave it. You can see the P dash. It has P dash. You can see the P dash, right? When P is acting, there will be a reaction due to the material of the body, or the body respond to this load by amount of P, and this load is in this direction, P dash. That's why the body respond. Any section, like you can take section here or here, it will be subjected to a uniform load in opposite direction, equal and opposite. This P dash is distributed all through the cross section, and the summation or the resultant of all these things will be equal to P dash. That's the beauty. You have to understand that way. The point load are applied at a center, applied at the center or axis of the member, or through the axis of the member. In this axis, along this axis of the member, is reacted or respond by the material or body in the opposite direction, and is uniformly distributed across the area. Okay, that is what you have to understand. This is referring to the centric loading because it's at the center, the load is at the center. The internal forces are produced in the body equal and opposite to the direction of P and P dash. So it should be opposite according to Newton's law of motion. Then here, eccentric. What is eccentric loading? An example of eccentric loading, right? You see here, the load is here, the center of the material is here, right? The material continues from here until it passes through and then ends here, right? There's a bend only. The material passes like this and this it is, and the center of the body is here, or centroid of this whole body calculated is lying at this point, but the load is acted at a distance d from the centroid. Then it is called eccentric loading. Same goes here. And then if two force members is eccentrically loaded, then the resultant of the stress distribution in a section must yield an axial force and a moment. Yep. So whenever there is a axial load, whenever there is a member subjected to loading, it may be axial load or sideway or vertically in any direction, it must show two things: reaction to this force and also a moment, right? And also a moment. So far you are learning like this, but technically we cannot prove, right? Technically we cannot prove, but so far we understand that the load that is applied to a member is distributed in two directions. One is in this direction, another one across, right? When it talk about the direction in the vertical direction, it is a force, shear force. When it is in the horizontal direction, it is of different type. It may be a summation of bending, tensile and compression. That's why I end up with a moment. We call the horizontal reaction or response of the body as a moment. The what do you call overall response of the member in the horizontal direction is denoted by moment, and the moment will vary based on the support condition, right? That is why whenever there is a, you would have studied for a simply supported or pin joint, there is no moment. It is tend to move, right? It doesn't react because it can freely move. No moment like that. If it is fixed, there is a moment. So the body will respond in two ways. One is shear force, another one in moment. Shear force along the surface, bending moment across. We will study one by one with the cross section and the diagram. Now we are doing only stress, and let me finish stress. When you go to particular topic on tension, compression, I will explain one by one. Right. Again, stress can be classified into these three. These three things: longitudinal stress, tangential shear stress, hydraulic stress. Don't take it as a chart. Try to understand first. Maybe I go here. I go from here. Actually, I should not show this table, and this chart you have to do yourself when I explain this. That's how you have to learn, right? You know what is stress now, right? Now you're going to learn what are the types, right? Come on. I already told you the stress has to be defined based on the direction of load, quantity of load, right? Or in other words, what is the response due to the load? Whether the member going to deflect, displace, deform, break, bend, collapse, bulk, buckle, all these things matters. Or just shear, right? Shear one over another, like this. Shear one, you can see. Shear one over another. What type of deformation is it? That is what you're going to learn, right? Accordingly, you can define the types of stresses. I repeat, the type of stresses mainly due to direction of load, type of deformation. Clear? Come on. I do the explanation, then you can classify yourself. Where all are here? Okay, all are here. Only three types are here. Maybe we have mainly of 4-5 types. I just do 3 types now. We do one by one. Okay, come on. Let's start with this one. This member. Come on. Imagine this member. Maybe a beam. Maybe a beam is very good example. Later you can ask for any type of members. A beam horizontal. It may be inclined some places, or hanging some places, or just fixed or pin at some places. It is of any type of support condition, right? Forget about it. Now imagine a beam and assume the load is acting towards the member. See, acting towards the member, inward, acting inward. Can you all see the slide? Oh, I didn't take the attendance.
Yes.
Hmm. Any questions so far? Am I going fast? Where is the participant list? Hmm. Okay, where we are here. You can see the slide, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now take this beam, right, of any cross section. Now we are analyzing in 1D. Forget about the width perpendicular to the direction. Width of the beam which is perpendicular to the direction. And also the depth is not matter right now unless you go for a distribution for now. Let me check at this point. It is only load acting at this point. And then what happens when the load, so they are giving you the stress distribution because the load is acting in this direction. Start from here, we start from here. Because the load is acting in this direction, there will be a response of the body or the stress acted in opposite direction. The summation of this is equal to P dash. And then at this point, again, you see the distribution. Distribution is very important. See, started with some value, gradually increasing to a peak value at the center. It is all talking about the stress. Okay, talking about the stress, the profile of the stress. Don't confuse between other things. Later you will come to learn many factors. Now we are talking about the stress distribution. Hey, no. 1 moment. Load distribution. I don't know why they put it. Although it is okay, but we cannot call this as a load distribution. Because per unit area, take it to be per unit area, sigma per unit area cross section area, then you are safe, right? This P is some value and some value like this, and towards the end it's 0. When it is moving little bit away from the load, this is the load. When it is little bit moving away from the load at this point, right? At this point, the loading is like this. Again, response to this one, it will be like this. Started with a very high value, right? Very high value, and then slowly increasing. The curve is a little bit flatter. And then finish at this point at the max or some value, reasonably some value, right? That is why, because it is maximum here, that is why you can see the last time this is a compression, right? Last time it was a tension, this is compression. So this shows there's going to be a critical section here. There's going to be a big difference, big deformation going to take place compared to this place, compared to this. So this is the critical section which will be affected by this loading at the ends, which is in compression, right? Effect of compression. That is why it's becoming flat or almost a straight line, right? And then after this, again coming back due to this one, if you want to draw the diagram for this same loading, it will be like this, slowly a little bit away, so slowly decreasing, increasing at this midpoint, and then reducing. And then it's good if I show in the what do you call animated view. I try to bring the diagram from ETAB, or you should also parallelly work with software, analysis software. That is not the scope of this module, right? I try to bring some animations to understand this. When I say it is going to reduce, you should be able to imagine, right? This part I will provide some video or some animation from software. You may, right now I was told it is available free. I'm sorry, I didn't have access to that, but student version, demo versions are available online for free to download. ETAB, MATLAB, StatPro we have. StatPro we have in our university. You can download and work on your, download in your laptop and work it. You also have module, right? And then StatPro also you can use, ANSYS you can use, and then ETAB, what else? Revit. Any type of analysis software you can use. There's questions that you are solving in the class, you can also try with the software there. That's how you have to learn. It is not under the scope of the study, so I cannot cover. If I finish early, I may go into some examples. But there are very good websites. The day also I saw ETAB. They have the full version of YouTube for ETAB learning. So if you go through and do self-learning. Nowadays the softwares are like this. MS Team you already learned, right, how to use. Same like this, you can learn software yourself. You must know the basic operations, and then what you do, run the help menus and then run the examples. You can practice yourself. That is also important. When you go to job, they will ask whether you are familiarized with this software. Nowhere it is manual, no longer. It is the scenario from last century. So you have end of last century. No more manual calculation, all software. Right. That's why next module theory of structure also mostly on Revit. Better you start using right now. Okay, if I have chance, I will do it in the class. I want to teach the theory first. Conversely, for locations far away from the load point, the stress becomes nearly uniform. That is what is given here. And then it's very far, so it is a big curve, right? Same way you can plot for the other direction. This one is compression. This is also compression. What's the difference? Oh, it's continuing. Actual stress distribution at different sections along an axially loaded member. Axis, along the axis, no eccentric, along the axis it is loaded. That is why axially loaded. Okay, along the axis it is loaded. That is why axially loaded. Not on the sideway or away from the center. Hence, axially loaded can produce the normal stress. Observe that the stress varies considerably for cross sections nearest the point of load application. Conversely, locations far away from the load points, the stress becomes nearly uniform. Is this clear? Near the point, gradually it is distributing, and it is well distributed here. Right. Next one, longitudinal normal stress. Go back to this one. Now go back to this one. So longitudinal or axial loaded members are called as, the stress can be called as longitudinal stress due to normal load or normal stress or axial load towards or along the axis of the member. Remember this point. These guys you can understand later on. Tensile compression we will understand later. For now you live with this. We are going to solve some calculations, then we go for this. Okay. It's simple. If the axial load is in effect of compressing, right? Compressing the diameter cross section increase, then it is compression. On the other hand, if it is away from the body, right? The load is applied away from the body, like the first case we discussed, it will thinner, right? There's a negging effect. Elongation takes place, right? Then it is called tensile stress. We'll study one by one later, but now just say axial load and the response. Based on the loading type, it may be tensile or compression. I repeat, tensile is in elongation, result in elongation of the member, length of the member increase. Compression, cross-section of the area, cross-sectional area changes, increase. Right. This thing I will show you with the example. Shear stress. Next is the shear stress. Shear stress, the student explained very nicely last time. Shear stress. Shear stress is the shear, just shear. It is applied in many applications, many example. If you want to say the scissor, right? Cutting scissor is due to shear stress produced by the body, or applying shear force. You can cut the scissors. You can cut anything. And then what else? What? The one the two members, when two members are connected, maybe connected at the end or connected one over another, right? Again, they will be subjected to a shear stress. If the anchorage is poor, right? If the anchorage is poor, it can overcome and then tend to fail. It will fail in this direction, right? It will fail in this direction. It means the force acting on the surface or acting on the layer, tangential, the meaning, the classification itself is tangential shear stress. Remember this word. The force is no longer axial, it is tangential on the surface. Okay. Imagine a member composed of different layers. Okay. Whenever the load is applied, I'm sorry, I didn't bring the book. another book. Another book. Later I'll show you. If the load is applied on top, the member will tend to slide one over another. A member of each layer of the member, where is the pen? Each layer of the member will respond. Okay, when these two load is applied, each member of the layer will respond. Each member of the layer. Can you all see the slide? Imagine this is composed of a layer, right, like this. So there will be a stress distribution over each and every layer, or the layer of the members will respond to this loading. It may tend to push this member or hold this member tight. These are all important. If this is to be held at this point, firm at this point should be firm, right? It should not be sheared along the surface due to the heavy load that is coming in, right? So the bonding should be good enough to hold the member in this position if it is necessary. If it is in moving condition, should be in moving condition, not ripped off, right? For in both case, the shearing stress will be applied. Or otherwise, I will draw the diagram. You know the compression is in this direction, tension is in this direction, right? Yeah. Tension will be in this direction. When you talk about the shear, it will be on the layer like this, like top and bottom layer. It will be shear like that. Yeah. If this member is like this layer will go like this layer will move due to shear. Very bad drawing. I change to okay. So the member, the ends will respond due to this loading applied to this one. It will be moving in this direction, right? If the member is moving in this direction or the layers are moving accordingly, the new position of the member will be something like this. No, the direction I put wrongly. The load is in effect to okay. The load is in effect to move the member and then get deflected to right. It will get deflected to a new position which is in red color like this, right? Due to tensile load. The tensile load will act like this. I can say this as a shear force and shear stress is tau. Shear force you can take it as a, just keep it as S for now. So the shear force is in effect to displace the member at an angle, right? That's why they produce an angle. See, the failure is at an angle. Later you will find out how much is the angle, how much is the resultant force and the deformation and so on, right? For now, understand that the compression is in increasing the cross section, tension is in thinnering, right, or reduce the cross section, but shear force is in response or in effect of sliding the layer of member one over another. In other words, the member is tilted or slide from original position to a new position, original position to a new position. Okay, original position to a new position. So like this, you may have to classify and understand the type of stresses acting on the member. We go for some more reading on this. Here you see, in this case, we go back to this example here. Due to the load acting, can you see the arrow? Due to the load acting at this point, right? Due to the load acting at this point, this AC, take it as AC and CB. The CB, where is it? Can you see? The CB will, where I put some brightness. Okay, the CB will slide over AC, right? Because of the direction of load like this, the CB will slide over AC. There is a chance that it get disconnected or it get broken or deviated from the, what do you call, the action is called, I forgot the actual technical term, distracted or deviated from this position to another position or following position, right? It may be like this, shifted to, because of the loading there is a chance that the CB will come to this position, C dash B dash, right? C dash B dash, and AAC will be same position. So to avoid these types of failure, you should understand how much is shear acting and address the issue by properly designing, either by thickening or adding members, adding more spring, adding more rivets and bolts, and so on. Can you all see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Corresponding internal force act in the plane of section C are called shearing force. Okay. Right. So the shearing type of load, when there are forces between two members or when two members are lying one over another, it may be at a tip or one over another, sliding one over another. It may be between bodies or within the body, right? When the body like this, and this case is within the body. Where is this case? You can see the arrow, right? In this case, it is within the body, right? The force is effective at the ends such a way that it get tilted, it get slide over another, thus producing an angle, a deviation angle, right? The resultant of the internal force distribution is defined as the shear of the section and is equal to shear force or shear load P. Okay, right. Next one. The corresponding stress produced will be shear force over cross-section area, right? The area in contact, that is important. You have to calculate the area in contact. Later we will, when you do the calculation, you will know which area has to be calculated for finding this tensile stress. While this average shear stress is often used in practice, the actual shear stress distribution varies from 0. That is most important. When you go back to this one, the stress distribution is very interesting to see here. On the surfaces, it will be 0 because nothing to say, nothing to respond. But in between there are materials which can respond to the shear stress. That's why there is an angle. The distribution diagram itself like this: 0 started from 0. Where is it? When you draw the diagram, it will be 0 here, and then maximum 0, and then maximum here, like this. The distribution of shear will be maximum. What's happening? Maybe I have to touch this one. Yeah. Okay. The distribution of stress will be starting from 0 on the layers, and then maximum at this point, tau max. Okay, like this. Later you study about this distribution. For now, understand that on the layers, on the surfaces, the shear stress will be 0. Where is it? We are here. So it is mostly affected by these types of joints, bolts, nuts, brackets, where the brackets are connected, where the pins are 4 pins. You put the bracket and connect by 4 pins for the, what do you call, mud pad, right? The footings, and then scaffoldings if you want to form it to the surface, or if the crane, if it is a crane, or two members joined together, or at the connections at the turning points of the network system. All these things will have these types of fixtures and connections. At these type of connections, it will be subjected to a shearing. So you have to firm it. Okay, you can see the arrow. Okay, so these two members will get sheared, right? This system, this type of connections will be showing a type of failure. If not properly loaded, there will be a failure due to shear, because these two members are connected by this loading, right? You see here, a loading of F is acting, loading F due to this connection. If you draw the free body diagram, a load of this much acting, that is shown here. A load of this much acting, that is shown here. Okay, A load, B load, right? The A and B are connected by this bolt, right? So when these two members are connected by a bolt, right? And this is providing some load onto this one. This is in turn exerting load onto this one. Due to this insertion, they are subjected to a kind of a shearing load, which is in this direction and in this direction. Later we'll study about how to calculate these values and the corresponding area of cross section and so on. But try to understand the situation wherein the shearing type of stresses are produced. Finally, I wanted to bring some models to explain. Let me give the theory first, then I show some models easy for you to understand. Summary: it turns out that the presence of shear does not significantly affect the bending stress. We consider Fletcher formula for pure bending typically valid even in the presence of shear stress. Okay. It is saying about this is covered in the chapter 4, but for now I just explain. Wait, I open a new one. There's a new slide. I don't get into it. One moment. Insert. Okay. How do we? Oh, my slide is like this. Okay. See, when a member is loaded, all of you know that it is subjected to, it will be getting deflected like this. Accordingly, are you seeing this screen? Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Imagine this is subjected to a load P. Automatically, if you imagine the member to be like this member, cross section, this is a line sketch, this is a cross section of the member AB, right? When there is a loading, if you cut this section at this point, XX, the cut section I show you here, cut section at this XX will be like this, right? Whenever a member is my draw tool, eraser, very bad line, okay, like this. Why is it's exact line, sorry, assume to be a straight line, not to scale. Okay, straight line, very bad, right? When you take the cross section, the shear force will be acting in this direction, right? The shear force will be acting in this direction. That's why you're plotting how much is the value, right? Across the cross section. If you see the cross section, I'm talking about the cross section, cut section at the C and view from here. View from here. If I put arrow, you may understand a different way. View la, imagine that you are viewing from here. This is the shear force. All these things are shear force. But on the other hand, there are two types of deformation one can visualize, one can analyze through StatPro or Revit. Number one is shear force. Number two will be the same cross section, the same cross section I do in the other color, blue, right? The other one will be, this is parallel, right? Across, due to the loading, this is happening, shear force is happening. When you look at the horizontal, this is all the member response. When you look at the horizontal direction, it will be like this, arrow like this, pointing like this. Perpendicular direction, going very high at the middle. And increase. I will explain what are they later on, right? Imagine to be the perpendicular, this is perpendicular to the direction of the force, right? This is across, right? In this direction, you are seeing in this direction. This one is in this direction, like this, okay? There are two types of response by the body. One is shear force, another one is the producing stresses in this direction. We call this as number one, if it is because it's a beam, I can call this the top member will be subjected to a compression, bottom member will be subjected to a tension because of the loading like this, tension load, compression load, and the middle point is called neutral axis. We will study about all these things later on, right? In these two can be found or these two can be calculated conveniently by means of what is called moment. Okay, by means of a moment. That is why in any calculation you do the shear force and bending moment, right? Are you clear? Any member which is subjected to a loading, there are two types of response or deformation taking place in the member. One is the shear force distribution, another one is the normal stress. The normal stress, I call this as a normal stress. I put it normal stress. Normal stress. This normal stress is in normal means perpendicular, like this, perpendicular. Normal stress. What is happening? Just leave it. Normal stress, okay, perpendicular to the cross section. And these perpendicular, I mean, two types of, they are in two different types, compression and tension, depending on the load direction and so on. And this is represented by what is called moment, right? Once you find the moment, you are answering for this. You are able to design the beam successfully with proper size and the reinforcement, whether the reinforcement needed at the bottom or top or both. Accordingly, you say single reinforced, double reinforced, and so on. This is the whole story of a beam and its deformations, okay, the effect due to the loading. Having said this, I turn to the normal mode. Can you see the slide? I remove this. Okay. Any question in understanding what is shear force and what is bending moment? Any question? I repeat once again. A member which is subjected to a loading will be deformed in two ways. One is shear force, another one which is parallel to the cross section, another one is normal to the cross section. The one which is normal to the cross section are called, it may be in the form of compression or tension, and this effect can be technically calculated by means of what is called bending moment. We have to calculate the bending moment. With that you can answer the problem of analysis and design. But these two, compression and tension, right? These two, compression and tension, we have to calculate how much is the stress, corresponding stress produced. We cannot stop with the force alone. We have to calculate the corresponding stresses. So if you calculate at the top, where is this? I'll share again. I think you can see now. On this one. So many. Okay. This shear force is very minimal, right? The effect due to shear force is very minimal, but still it is important in cases like this. Just now we see the rivet and bolt. It is important in these cases. But in the case of beams and columns, we don't bother about this one. We don't actually design for this one. We only design for this, because this is going to bend the member, break the member, or fracture the member. That's why we call this as a flexural. Later you will study about flexural formula or bending formula to find out the bending stress or the corresponding stress produced in this body. Okay. Now moving on, bearing stress. Just now I told you about the bearings and the bolt connected to the two planks or two panels. Two panels are connected by a bolt. Similar situation here. Yeah. This is statics not needed. Okay, I just finished with this for the type of stress. Bearing stress is the stress produced at the bearings, right? An equal and opposite forces between plate and the bolt exerted over the bearing surface. It is still called as a shearing stress, but because happening at the bearing, it can be called as bearing stress. So by applying the formula for the same formula, which is shear force over shear, if you want to calculate the shear load, you can calculate the shear load, and then the corresponding stress will be called as shear stress or bearing stress, because it's due to the bearing. That's it. Not much different. We will do calculation, then you understand how to analyze. Where else? These are all the statics things. Let me go for We will come back to the calculation later on. We finish the theory until this part. Where is the theory? Here. Right, this is important. Okay, again coming to this one, right? Stress on plane normal to the axis. Try to understand all these things, right? One and the same, but for different situations of loading it is given, right? Almost same, we already discussed this one. Also done. Stress on plane normal to the axis. Okay. When we do calculation, I will explain about this part. Just hold on. I cannot do the deformation here. The changes I cannot show. Stress on, we start from here. Stress on plane normal to the axis. It's a summary. Axial force on two force members result in only normal stress on a plane perpendicular to the member axis. That's what I say. It's a perpendicular. It's always perpendicular. It's always perpendicular to the force is acting perpendicular to the cross section. And then transverse force on bolts and pins result in only shear stress on the plane perpendicular to the bolt or pins. Transverse again to the longitudinal section, along the longitudinal section. Transverse force on the bolts and pins result in only shear stress on the plane perpendicular to the bolt or pins. This part. Okay. Again, I cannot explain well here. I'm sorry. I have to do by calculation. Last one, axial or transverse forces may produce both. This is important. Normal and shear stresses with respect to a plane other than one perpendicular. I don't know why they put cut. Perpendicular to the member axis, right? Both forces are. We go back to the classification. Both forces are in effect to produce. See, you have longitudinal and tangential, right? Longitudinal and tangential. Longitudinal is perpendicular to the or normal stress. Longitudinal or normal stress is perpendicular to the cross section. This is parallel to the cross section or along the member. This force is acting along the member, parallel to the member. In both, you will have perpendicular and depending on the load condition, you will have the corresponding stresses. But I do calculation, then only you will able to differentiate. Just reading theory, you cannot. This one. Axial and transverse forces may produce both normal and shear stresses with respect to plane, right? In overall, it is saying about all members are subjected to. If you load a member, yes, it is subjected to both type of loading, axial deformation and also shear deformation. But in some cases, shear is ignorable, negligible. So we design only for axial load and its response in terms of normal force. In other case, like bearing bolt or two members joined together, right? Or one body or another body, right? You are joining two members. Mostly in joining two members or member in rotation or member in movement, all these things you will design for shear first. Shear will be more significant than axial. So you will design for shear. Having designed for shear, it does not mean that it is not having axial stress. It is also having axial stress, but is borne by the value you design for shear, which is the maximum value. That is what the meaning of that sentence. So all bodies, whenever a body is subjected to loading, it is subjected to both normal and transverse or tangential stresses. You design whichever is the maximum, whichever is significant in the case study or the situation given to you, right? Coming to this problem. Oblique, again oblique I am not going to discuss in this module. Just for understanding, for your knowledge only, there are also loads acting on oblique plane. You may have to consider what is the type of loading on the oblique plane. It depends on again a design. It follows the design. Corresponding diagrams and resolving forces according to, because its oblique is inclined, right? You need to resolve forces to the respective direction to get your answers done. This is not much, it's just one for reading only, I don't cover for syllabus. Right, state of shear, and this is most important. Remember this point, just now I told you, any body, even if it is not loaded, static also, water tank, take water tank, without water or with water also, it is having some concentrated loading, right? It is static in condition. The tank will be subjected to load, or a box, right? Maybe a box, it may be a flooring, right? A block, it may be a block, or any type of structure will be subjected to stresses due to its own self weight, or due to gravity, or due to live load, if it is some objects are moving or placed onto it. In all conditions you can see all these differences. Take this phase, take this phase. There is a normal stress in x direction perpendicular to this phase, isn't it? Can you see it clearly? Please try to understand this, most important. Two types of forces existing on the member. One is normal stress, which is perpendicular to the surface. Another one is shear stress along the plane. Because this is analyzed in 2D, x and y, right? You have this plane, right? When you calculate the stress in this plane, it is called tau xy. When you calculate the stress in this plane, xz, then the stress which is lying on the plane, tangent to the plane, is called shear stress in this plane xz. Okay. On the other side, if you want to calculate the same, similar to this one, in this phase also, you can see a normal stress acting perpendicular to the cross section or the surface of the member, and other two are lying on the member. The shear stress are lying on the member, or it is parallel to the layers of the member, right? Sections of the member, tangential to the member. Same goes here. You see here, normal stress is in this direction, in this plane. It is perpendicular to the surface. Shear stress are tangential or parallel to the surface. Shear stress always tangential or parallel to the surface. Okay. Any question here? Stress components are defined for the planes parallel to the x, y and z axes. For equilibrium, equal and opposite stresses are exerted on a hidden plane. Okay. Understanding the component, solve for the opposite, the reactions. If it is equalized, balanced. If the material is not bearing, the stress produced is minimum. The stress produced is minimum. Cannot bear, then overturn, collapse, deform, isn't it? That is what we're going to see in a while. Answer me, do you understand these types of stresses existing in a body? According to the type of structure, component of the structure, either you will design for both, right? Mechanical engineer, you should design for both, because the machines, parts of machines are both are equally important. Add to this thermal effect due to thermal. But in our case, we do only normal stress. Shear stress comes when it is a shear wall or a retaining wall, wherever there are two members, two bodies, two media, then they will work for shear design. Any questions so far?
Not yet.
Delta. Resultant for associated with each stress component acting on a small element. Yeah. For solving, because it's an area, right? All of you know the integration, differentiation, right? Where you apply differentiation, where you apply integration. When you analyze an elemental area, the answer at the end, you want to know the whole area, you will integrate, right? Integrate means what? Add small component. You take a small elemental area and then add by small elemental area. Integrate means add. Integrate over the limit of this area 0 to a, you will get dA. If you take a small area dA in the beginning, then integrate over the area 0 to a, you will get the value for the whole area. These are the mathematics you studied before, but I'm not going to do any derivation, just to recall and remind you what is happening here. Where is my pen? Okay. pen is not here. Something happened. Right. Where we are? I did finish last one. Okay. Yeah. So integrate. Integrate means you having found this elemental area, small area, to get the answer for whole area, you add, simply add. In olden days, UK also they started doing graphical analysis just by adding small squares before integration come into play. Once the integration is come into play or come into use, they started doing integration conveniently to get the effect for the whole area, right? Now also you can do it for small sections. You just plot it in a graph. Then knowing the scale, you can add and find the effect for the whole area. Both are same. State of stress is important. Okay. In state of stress, recall your equilibrium equations. Equilibrium equations. For 3D analysis, all the 6 equations should be 0, right? All the force in all 3 directions should be equal to 0. All the moments in 3 directions should be equal to 0. Hope you understand this equation. What does it mean? Body subjected to loading should be nullified by its stress produced, right? If it cannot bear the load, it will fail, isn't it? Then no equilibrium. And these things are dealt by determinate structure and indeterminate structure. I don't know whether you studied or not. Just for now, I explain the meaning only. Determinant structures are determinant, we can determine. That is the meaning. How you can determine? Based on the number of equations. So you have this type of 3-dimensional analysis. I already explained, I think. 3-dimensional analysis means you should have all these 6 equations, right? You may use all 6 equations. If the unknowns are 6 and matches with 6 equations available, it is called determinate structure. I can solve. Jason can solve. Anas can solve. Who else? One way Shang can solve. Anybody can solve. If there is a difference, unknown is 7, equation left with is 6. Mathematically, indeterminate. I cannot determine. I have to go for using some matrix method or software analysis or hi-fi method or graphical analysis. Somehow I have to reach equations. No longer equations. If you use equation, it is called analytical solution. Getting solution analytically, right? Analytical solution. So you must go for higher level of solution, problem solving techniques like matrix optimization or software to solve. If it is indeterminate, means what? Number of equations not equal to number of unknowns. Okay, state of stress. Free body diagram of smallest element Q viewed on project plane perpendicular to. Yeah, you can also view in a perpendicular plane. This plane, don't worry now, we may get confused. We do this plane in chapter 6. If you look at this in a plane surface, it will be like this. Normal, shear, normal, shear, normal, shear, normal, shear. Okay. Come on, this is important. I may ask questions in your test 1. Understand factor of safety. What do you mean by factor of safety? Safe factor, right? Safe factor. What is the maximum load that I can apply to a body? What is the maximum stress that I can apply to a body? This, having known this, if you know this factor, you know how much I can load for the designed bus, designed ship, right? Ship is traveling from North America to South America, the Panama Canal, right? You design a ship, new ship, traveling at very high speed. In a day, you can transport between North America to South America. You design a ship such a way that the speed, motor, engine, powerful. In one day, it can transport. It is successful. It's all because of engineers like you and your pioneers. See, now it is successful. One day, within one day, I can transport. It was so cleverly ingenious way of design to hold all the loading inside, travel at high speed, reach in given time, one day. Right, you have design, and then what is happening? You should know how much maximum I can load, right? Otherwise, your system fail. So, to knowing this, one thing is the material, but a ship is not made up of one material, right? There are too many things. Hull means what? The ship body. Body is made up of wood, right? Sometimes other material, and then the fulcrum at the bottom, right? Some steel, some wood, some plastic, some polymers, some metals, right? Many components are sitting inside, and the load is differing, right? Capacity of the load is differing. In all, you should know how much maximum I can load. At what point it is going to fail. That is given by factor of safety. Come on, any idea before you learn what your pioneers what your engineers have designed? Answer me. Any idea? How to know this? How to know this? How much I can load a member? Any idea? Ivan, Lamso, anybody? Any idea to determine how much maximum I can load? Imagine you are designing your swimming pool at your home, right? How much water I can keep, right? Swimming pool also very simple. Just take it as a workshop, right? You design a workshop, right? You are going to start up a company. Now you want a processing center or a workshop. You are designing workshop. You started your company. When construction started, you raise up all the building columns, everything, right? Now answer me. You should know the maximum. Each and every member they have the limit, right? How much maximum you can load. How you design? Just a rough idea. Anyway, you're going to learn in RCC. Any idea? Lim Ting, Tan, Chi Ming, Yok Zia, Wang Wei. Anybody? Just think and tell me to know how much maximum I can load my building member or maybe my own design, right? A car design.
Compressive strength test.
Compressive strength test. Okay, what you test for how much is the compressive strength of the material, then you compare, isn't it? Okay, relatively good answer, right? He wants to check the material strength, but this is not the only thing that is going to hold the structure, isn't it? It is not only the material property. There are some loading coming in, isn't it? You ignore the loading. Not only the material, right? What else? Partially correct. Yes, you should know how much is the strength of the body. Yes, one factor. Any other? Good point. One point, halfway answer already. To know how much maximum I can load it, he said compressive strength. If I find the compressive, so but even though if you find the compressive strength, you can load up to compressive strength value, right? Compressive strength of the I mean, what is the limit? What is the yielding point? You can only load up to yielding point, which is already there in the what do you call your books, isn't it? What else? Any other factor? Just think.
Maybe the number of people.
Number of?
Estimate the number of people. How many people?
Load. Yeah, indirectly he's saying the load. It is not only the strength, load. How much load is coming in? What are the types of load coming in, right? Okay, you answer already for factor of safety. So having known the strength of the material, having known the allowable, right? Allowable and the ultimate strength of the material, I can design the maximum load coming in. In between these two heroine, there is a one factor called factor of safety, right? Normally what they say, I go to the slide, normally what they say, in general, I was expecting this answer from you. If I have to load the member for 50 tons, if I design double, triple, then it is safe. I actually expected this answer from you, right? But you didn't answer. So how do you know the maximum? I just double the load and design. I just triple the load and design. I just make it 1.5, 3.5, 5.5, 5 times the load. Then I am safe, isn't it? But there is a contrary, there is a drawback. You are adding more material, you are adding more spring, you are adding more labor, time, cost. Many are there, right? So there should be a reasonable limit under which you can load. That is called factor of safety. Up to now, today until today, and all the code books they have what is called 1.5. The value is 1.5. So far the value is stated as 1.5 right here. 1.5. Can you all see the slide? Yeah. Factor of safety is fixed at 1.5, meaning what? They design 1.5 times more than 1.5 times more than the applied. Okay. It is another wise. Factor of safety is defining the ratio between ultimate stress to applied stress, ultimate load to applied load. Okay, the applied load should be lower, or times 1.5 must not exceed the allowable or ultimate. This is material property. This is material property. Material property. I don't have this eraser here. Oh, got it. Why my screen is very low? Okay, material property. I cannot delete. Okay, this is the material property which can explain you how much you can load it. Okay, material property. This is the one I said. Who said compressive strength? Good. This is the thing. Compressive strength, the tensile strength, whatever the member you are choosing, you have to check the corresponding stress. Compression member, compressive strength. Tension member, tension strength. Shearing stress. So this is the yielding point or the allowable value, and this is the applied or design. This is the applied or designed or actual value that I want to design. 50-ton crane, 50-ton, I mean 100-ton lorry, right? My structure is 100-ton lorry. I have to design something like that. You have to, or it may be a missile. So you know the story. China very conveniently they send the missile and just fallen in front of Maldives. Can you imagine how much enormous force and how much enormous water has been uplifted due to this effect? Do you know the news? Yeah, satellite. Yesterday, I think satellite sent by China got failure. They don't know where it will fall. Very fortunately, it fell into the flaps and tripped into the Indian Ocean in beside in a surrounding area of Maldives. Safely, it was removed. It will be removed. So you can imagine how much thunders falling and the gravity and the force, water force, right? Right. Where we are here. I repeat, whenever you design times 1.5, increase the load times 1.5, then your value is higher than the allowable or ultimate stress of the body, strength of the body. Maybe you can take this as a strength and this as a stress. Okay, strength is the material property, stress is the due to load. Okay, this is design or applied load should be 1.5 times, then the factor of safety is maintained. Okay, all right. I remove these things. Are you clear? I repeat, factor of safety is defined as ultimate stress or allowable stress over applied stress or actual stress or design stress. If you want to compare load, make it load. In RCC, you start with calculation all load, then finally you multiply 1.5 factor of safety, then only you start designing your member. So you safeguard yourself. Some engineers they put 2, 3 over design. Even over design also increasing your weight unnecessarily, right? If it is a water structure, it is even worse. So you should know what is the factor of safety exactly. There may be good research. You can also conduct research on this to change to 1.2 or 1. Sometimes there is a variation. Variation. You can take this as a FIP project to find out which is the optimal value, saving money, material, manpower, right? Time, everything, and at the same time achieving the same strength. You can conduct this test on this, right? For now, we use only 1.5. I repeat, factor of safety is equal to 1.2 to 1.5, which is saying that always the applied, I mean allowable, the material strength should be, no, this is design. Design should be less than the material property or strength of the material, then you're safe. By what factor? 1.5. That means if you're designing for 100, your design is 100 tons, you design for 150 tons. Don't design for 100 tons. Design for 150 tons, you are safe. 1.5. Okay. Factor of safety. Factor of safety considerations. Where is phone already? Yeah. Okay, answer. You have time? Okay, I have to start with the calculation, right? Factor of safety consideration: uncertainty in material property, uncertainty of loading, uncertainty analysis, number of loading cycles, types of failures, maintenance requirements and deterioration effects, importance of member to integrity of whole structure, risk to life and property, influence on machine functions. We will detail this with the example in the next class. For now, just read out. There are some factors which is affecting. With that, you can handle the values. Say, for example, if you know the uncertainty of loading, you can handle this number. You should know the variation. What type of loading. If you can get the profile of the loading for a particular design, you are able to design this factor safety conveniently. I will explain in detail in the next class. I stop here. Any question you can ask me. Let me move on to the calculation. I start with the homework one, then I do one calculation on this stress analysis. Share the class tutorial sheet. Any question you can ask me? Right. Where we are? Homework, right? You want me to solve one homework? Let me take the homework paper. All of you take the homework paper. Try to solve. Switch on your camera, please. Week 2. And then tutorial sheet. Okay. You want me to solve 1 or 2? Can you see the? Let me share this question. Where is it? You want me to solve 1 or 2? I have given 3 questions. A third question is much easier. You can conveniently solve this, right? All the sides are given. Just find the angle. You can find the values, respective values. Hope you can manage. If not, you can ask me. Don't worry. You can always disturb me during the working hours, right? But get it done before you finish the deadline. Don't come at the last minute. Never mind, I spent a lot of time in the beginning, but you have to get along with that. Now, answer me which question I saw, 1 or 2?
Two.
Okay. Very simple question you are giving me. Okay. Now start with this. I will do it here itself. Okay. I understood that you have you remember those basics, those basics of solving question. With that, I am going to answer this question. Let's start with the. All of you can see the screen, right? Can or not? Can, huh? Right. Can you see the screen?
Yes, can.
Okay. Now start with given data. The solution start with given data. Solution. I write solution. I put the on already. One moment. That's why we have to meet in person. It's so dangerous. It's going like this. Okay, hope I can manage with this. All right. Write down the given data first. Easy for you to calculate. a wide flange I section is given, right? You're asked to calculate the beam loaded with 22 newtons, kilonewtons. At this point is 22 kilonewtons at location A. 22 kilonewtons. Remember, very simple question. At A, and a clockwise moment of this one. How much is it? Clockwise, 34 kilonewton meter. At B, with given data, find the maximum bending moment. So given with the loading, P is equal to 22 at this one. Moment at A, B, just B. Moment at B is 34 kilonewton meter. And then what else you are given? Cross section thing is you are not going to find the stress anyway. And clockwise moment is also written. Finally, you need to find required answer will be required answer is you're asked to calculate the maximum bending moment at D. Maximum bending moment at D. Very simple question. Let's start with the solution. Starts with free body diagram. Draw the free body diagram to understand what is given to you, right? Better you draw it nicely at the side so that you can plot the other answers conveniently. You are given a member. I draw in black. What happened? Right. What's happening? Okay. A member A, B, and D, and this is fixed support. Remember D, and then you are given a moment clockwise, which is how much? 34 kilonewton meter, and then loading at this point is 22 kilonewton, right? First of all, you should know the sign convention, and then your free body diagram is having all the force and reactions, right? Let me plot the reactions first. This is free end, right? Just loading is applied. There's nothing, right? Because of this loading, there will be a reaction. I do it in red color. There will be a reaction at this point, right? Which is called RD, right? Technically speaking, right? Mechanically, I should say mechanically. Mechanically, whenever the member, can you see the arrow moving? Whenever the member is loaded at this point, automatically there is an equal and opposite reaction at the end, which is RD, so that the member is balanced, right? That is one thing. In addition to that, it is fixed support, so you have a reaction produced at this point. And then because it's fixed support, there will be a moment caused, right? There will be a moment. Whenever there is a fixed support, you would have studied, right? Whenever there is a fixed support, due to this support, there will be a vertical, there will be a horizontal, there will be a moment, right? Either clockwise or anti-clockwise is produced, but based on the solution, after solving equation, you will know whether it is in this direction or anti-clockwise direction. So this is the basics of materials. Accordingly, I repeat, because of this loading, there is a reaction RD caused at this point, which is also equal to 22. Later, we'll find out. Now, there is a moment, right? We do not know what is it. Because of fixed moment, there will be a moment. For now, I take it to be because it is rotating like this, right? It is trying to rotate like this, which is you should know now what is clockwise, anti-clockwise. One moment. I'll open this file to show you what is clockwise, anti-clockwise. Right. See here the clock. Can you all see the clock? Try to understand what is clockwise, anti-clockwise. I keep this as clockwise. When the rotation is from in this direction, meaning follow the clock timing 1, 2, 3, 4. It is in order. When the rotation is in this direction, which is anti-clockwise, right? 10, 11, 10, 9, 8 in the opposite direction, we treat this as anti-clockwise rotation. Remember this point. I copy this figure to take you week 2, right? Only. This is class homework. I paste here. Oh, this cannot move badly. Right, it doesn't matter. Right, imagine I put the clock here, this clock, I put the clock at Imagine I put the clock here at this point. Where is it? Red color. I put blue color as my clock. I put the clock here. Always to know the anti-clockwise or clockwise direction, you keep the clock at the axis about which you are going to find the moment. Then you are very clear to know which is clockwise and which is anti-clockwise. Now if you mark the clock here, 3, 12, 3, 6 and 9, right? Now this is clockwise, see? Anti-clockwise, right? This is anti-clockwise. What is the question given to you? Oh, I put wrongly. You didn't tell me. The question is, the moment is, what is the moment? Which is clockwise, isn't it? Which is clockwise, you didn't tell me. The moment is clockwise. The given value at B is moment is clockwise. See here, it is following the clockwise, right? 3, 6, 2, clockwise, right? Now coming to our analysis. Because of this loading, the reaction created, because of fixed support, there should be a bending moment. Bending moment for now I assume to be when it is acting like this, right? The member will respond in this direction. So I keep the moment in this way, okay, which is again clockwise, right? Later we will, by solving, we will know whether it's clockwise or anti-clockwise. That's why we need to solve the equation. Some people may answer without solving, but this way of doing will answer you which direction, whether your assumption is correct or not. But according to the loads given, moments given, support condition given, we say because of this loading there is a reaction, right? And because of fixed support there should be a moment. The moment is in clockwise direction because it is in action of anti-clockwise. The body will respond. The moment, reactive moment will be in opposite direction, which is clockwise. And there will be a horizontal. Because there is no horizontal force, I cannot get any horizontal force here. It is 0. No horizontal force acting on this member. So horizontal reaction is also 0. Come on, proceed with this. You clear with the analysis and the free body diagram? Now our free body diagram is showing all your moments and reactions. Now solve this. How do you solve? Anybody? One way? Yes, solve nicely. Come on, answer me. How do you solve this? By using? Always you write by using equilibrium equation. Equilibrium equation. Start like this. Equilibrium equation. Mind your spelling. I don't know. Equation. What is it? All forces. All forces in y direction equal to 0, x direction equal to 0, and so on, right? Now we solve in one direction only. All forces in x, y direction equal to 0. Let me take this point. Okay, start from the beginning. What is the force acting downward? How much is it? Okay, you take downward. I write the sign convention. When you write the given data, please do the sign convention also. Downward negative, upward positive, clockwise positive. Our clockwise is like this, right? And clockwise, anti-clockwise. Anti-clockwise is negative. Please remember these points. Then you can solve easily. Come on, Fi. Start from here. What is the load? 42. Positive or negative, Jackson? Follow the sign convention. Positive or negative?
Negative.
Very good. Followed by, go on. Any load acting? Any load acting? No, only moment is there. Any load acting? And there is one thing here, which is
RB.
What is this value? I mean the direction, positive or negative? Negative. Positive. Any other load? Away. Sudah. Okay. Now RD is equal to 22. Upward. Fine. Our assumption is correct. So equal to 22. You can conveniently write down. Balanced. Finish one part. Now shear force is determined already. We can plot it. If you want to immediately plot it, you take this plot the axis. This is graphical plot. I take the axis as in black, and then the shear force diagram in blue. My blue is not clear blue. And this blue. I put the shear force diagram in blue. Now start from here. Plot the shear force diagram. How much is at this point? 22 downward. Negative. I go down. Negative downward. 22. I mark the 22 here. Positive. Exactly positive. At the tip it is acting. So positive. Go on. the same load will be distributed throughout the member, right? So I keep it like this. Although a bit variation is there, just keep it like this. Any load, no other load is acting here. In the previous case, there are two loads, right? When you cross with the other load, you need to deduct or subtract according to the direction. In this case, no load is acting until this point. Until this point. I still have, how much is it? Minus 22, 22 kilonewton. And when I come, I still have minus 22. But there is one positive 22. So add positive, it will reach 0. Add positive to 0. This is the axis of the shear force diagram. Okay. This is the axis, right? This is the axis. I don't extend it because we don't have member. No point I extend it. For the member, when I start, this is 0, negative. I reach here minus 22, but there is another positive acting. Plus minus 22 plus 22 will be 0. I have to reach 0. That's how the shear force diagram is finished. Okay. Shear force diagram is drawn for this. Okay. Now, let's go to the moment diagram. I need some space. Anyway, I can manage to do it here. Moment also very simple. Again, this can be solved without solving equation, but better you do by equation. Again, write by equation, by using equilibrium equation, which is your sigma what? For finding moment, you need to know. Finding moment, you need to know sigma m. Sigma m is equal to 0. Use this equation. Okay. Sigma m is equal to 0. About this d, because I have to, about an axis only you have to find sigma md towards at point md at this point, sigma md or point at md this point. About this axis we are finding fixed n. So solve. Wait. Cannot be like this. I have to account for this value also. So sigma m, let it be sigma overall, moment is equal to 0. Start from the beginning for now. Okay, where you start from here, from this point onwards. Where's the beam? Easy for me. Anyway, this one. You see the member I explain now, and then I go to solve the problem. From here, we are taking moment about this axis. Okay, we are taking moment about this axis. This is moment md. We already calculated, right? So we say about md, if you want to calculate, you start from here. This force into the whole distance you can multiply because it is acting throughout the member, right? And the cross section is not varying. Cross section is not varying. That is one equation. 22 times 2, that is one equation. Another one you can also do part by part. 22 by 1 and then 22 by 1. Also same. Now coming to this, there is another moment acting. You need to add this moment which is clockwise, positive. This is anti-clockwise, this is positive. So you need to add sum all these things must be equal to 0 or must be equal to opposite direction or equal to md. So with that the value will be found out. So I repeat, you are given this data, find out the maximum bending moment at moment d. Now we are going to find out the moment at this point by taking moment about this x-axis which is lying at the support. Okay, easy. You don't need to use the equilibrium or not. It's all values are known already, right? Come on, let me go and do the calculation. Okay, now I know the value. We need to find out the maximum bending moment at d. That is the required answer. I know all the reactions. Now sigma m d is equal to, start from here. Where is the member? Start from here. 22, positive or negative? Moment is force into distance, right? 22 into, I directly put the value. How much is the distance? 2. I take it to be 2 because we are calculating about that axis. Moment should be taken about an axis. 2 meter. Better you use the units. 22 kilonewton or Newton? Kilonewton. 22 kilonewton times 2 meter. Can you answer me positive or negative? Anybody? Work along with me. Positive or negative?
Negative.
Negative. Anti-clockwise negative. Any other moment followed by after this? After this, you please understand you can do part by part from here to here if you go, or you can do overall because uniform cross section. No need to do part by part. Otherwise, you have to do for this one and then this moment and then this part. First do AB at B and BD. Also same. Now, when you cross this point, there is another moment acting which is clockwise direction 34. So positive, clockwise direction positive 34. Moment itself, kilonewton meter, right? Kilonewton meter. Kilonewton, right? Yeah, kilonewton meter. Moment itself is given to you. How much is it? Find out.
10,
10 kilonewton.
negative 10.
Negative. Negative or positive? Negative only. Positive. This is higher, right? 42. 44, right? Okay. Why negative? Then our assumption is wrong. Okay. Our assumption is wrong. But leave it like that. No problem. What?
I thought for a moment anti-clockwise should be negative and clockwise should be anti-clockwise should be positive, but clockwise should be negative, right?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. You may do either way, but end up with the correct answer. It will get resolved itself. But this is the norm we follow. Clockwise is always positive. It is not separate for moment. Any other? Is it different for moment? Take it this way, if so far if you have followed, I need to check why you follow like this. But in any analysis, we take clockwise positive, anti-clockwise negative. I put C clockwise. If you put the clock, it is a different story. But it's again depending on which axis you are following, right? According to this axis, this direction is positive, which is clockwise, and the other direction is negative. Okay? Clear? Now, coming to this case, what we did? The moment, I put it roughly, the reaction moment may be in opposite direction, so I put it in a clockwise direction, but end up with negative, meaning what? Anti-clockwise. Doesn't matter, just if you want, you can write down anti-clockwise this way, right? Just put it anti-clockwise, that's all. Negative. We found the maximum moment, maximum moment at D. You can try the answer like this. Any other question? Which no, you have to draw the diagram. Draw the diagram. One moment. Let me start here. Use the black color. Axis, axis I use.
Miss, I have to leave now. Okay.
Yeah, you can leave. I'm going to finish in a while, 1 minute only. Let's plot the bending moment diagram. Start from here. It's a free end, right? It will tend to move, right? There is no reactive moment offered by the member. It can freely move. So moment will be 0. In other words, where there is a maximum shear, moment will be 0.